Today we're going to look at two different real estate deals and see if they're good deals to buy. A question I get a lot is, how do I know a good deal when I see one? I'm going to take you through the numbers on two deals that, one that I'm actually currently buying and another one that a client of mine is looking at purchasing today. And they're basically based on two different strategies. Depending on what kind of apartment owner you talk to, everybody has their own strategy. I think there are a lot of different ways to get to a similar goal. It just depends on what your philosophy is. Some apartment owners are buying in these coastal neighborhoods that have, where it's more pride of ownership, but you've got to put down large down payments because beach properties are expensive. And then you have the other real estate investor who's really looking for cash flow. And so if you're looking for cash flow and to be able to maximize your leverage, then you're probably looking at more workforce type housing. And that's kind of the properties that we're purchasing. So one thing that I tell people when they're getting into apartment investing, a lot of times they want to go out and talk to these huge apartment owners. Well, the problem is that whatever that apartment owner's strategy is today is not the same strategy that he used when he first started investing in apartments. I mean, he didn't buy his first apartment deal near the beach where you have to put down, at least 50% just to make the deal work. Why? Because he didn't have that cash. Now that they've accumulated several hundred units or thousands of units, they're now looking at nicer properties. They need strategies to save on taxes. They're looking at more legacy. So they're maybe trading out of some of that workforce housing and buying nicer properties, thinking that maybe their kids are gonna, be inheriting these properties soon. So that might be why somebody's looking to purchase nicer properties now. So you really have to take a look at each individual apartment owner and their strategy, and not just their strategy today, but what was their strategy when they got started, when they were at the point that you're at. So let's get into it. I am going to look at these two deals. One deal we're actually purchasing. So the first deal is the workforce housing deal. It's here in San Diego. It is 30 units, but it's 29 legal units. The purchase price is $5.7 million. So divided by 29 legal units, that's about $196 a door. Which is actually pretty good in this market. A lot of stuff is trading over $200 a door, well over $200 a door, depending on where you're at. So this particular property has two studios that are getting current rents of about $1,000, and market rents are about $1,050. I think we can actually push these. So again, these numbers are actually conservative, which I love because that means that I can probably do a little bit better on these properties than what I'm forecasting here. There's also 11 one-bedroom, one-baths at $1,150 per unit on average. So these are averages. And then market, we're thinking we can get to $1,295. I actually think it's more like $1,350. But for this, we're going to use conservative numbers. 16 two-bedroom, one-baths. They're actually townhome style. For $1,500 currently on average, and market is about $1,650. And then here's our bonus studio. It's going for $900 a month, and we could probably get to $1,000 a month. So at 30 units, our gross rents are $39,550 on current, or $43,745 on market. And then we've got laundry income estimated at, and other, so maybe late fees and other things like that, at $540 a month on both. So our total gross potential income would be $40,090 on current and $44,285 on market. So when I'm looking at deals, a lot of times you're going to get the marketing package from the real estate broker. So we'll have to run our numbers based on these current, on basically what their marketing package says. Now, a lot of brokers do try to get the operating income and expenses for these projects, and that's what they use for their marketing packages, but they don't always. So some of these deals are pocket listings. Like, for example, this deal is a pocket deal, so you might not always get operating data. In this case, our broker didn't have the actual operating data to look at, so we ended up comparing the numbers, and he's a really good broker, so he was very conservative on his estimates. Some of our expenses were higher in some areas and lower in others, but it averaged out to be roughly the same. And then in this particular case, our current rents were actually a little bit higher, so that was a benefit that we got. So the deal ended up looking a little better than it does even here. But so let's go to the expenses. So when you look at property taxes, we're going to base our property taxes based on the actual property tax rate, which you can usually go to the county website of wherever your property is located and pull a tax bill using the APN number or the address, and it will tell you what the tax rate is. So you would plug in that number, multiply it times the purchase price of 5.7 million, and you come up with your number. So 64,695. Make sure you add in if there's any additional assessments or things like that. On this particular location, sewer is charged through the property tax bill instead of the water bill. So you've got to add that in. I added it in down here for sewer of 9,892. Insurance, I got an actual quote from my insurance agent, and this was also what was estimated of 7,500. On-site manager, this is more than 16 units, so you have to have an on-site manager and make sure that you're, complying with all the laws of how on-site managers need to be compensated. That's a whole other video, but just make sure that you're following all those laws. So here's the expense that we estimated. Off-site management, we have estimated at 5% of income. Maintenance and repairs, we estimated at $850 per unit. That's pretty standard for most properties. I would say $800 to $850 for this type of location is about right. And I kind of increased that amount because you've got a pool, you've got some common area that might be a little bit more expensive than, let's say, a smaller property that doesn't really have much in the way of common area. So landscaping, utilities, that would be water, trash, and gas. In this case, this particular property has a one gas meter for the property, so we're actually technically paying for all the tenants' gas, which they have electric stoves, but they have gas heaters, so we're paying for that. And then there's that sewer charge again, and then we do replacement reserves. So I include replacement reserves. That's stuff like, unit turnover or big replacements that you didn't really anticipate getting. It's actually a pretty small number for a 30-unit property or 29 legal units, so $5,800, but I do put that in there, and then I just put a pad for pool and miscellaneous of $5,000. So that is total expenses of $187,769. So let's take a look at the overall numbers, how we get our net income, our cash flow, cap rates, and then of course, most importantly, financing. So here we go. This is the gross scheduled income. That is essentially $39,550 times 12. So I got $474,600. I'll go through current right now. Other income of $64,80. That's the $540 times 12. You use a 3% vacancy rate. So on purchases, a lot of brokers are going to utilize a 3% vacancy rate for marketing and, of course, arriving at value, because our county-wide vacancy is about 3% in San Diego County. But for your loan, lenders are going to use 5% vacancy. So it's the greater of whatever the appraiser notes for vacancy, or 5%. So we're using 3% just for the marketing purposes only. So I come up to a gross operating income of $466,842. Then I take my expenses. I deduct the expenses here of $187,769, and I get to an NOI of $279,073. That is before your debt service. Debt service is your mortgage payments. So in our case here, I have talked a lot about interest-only financing. That is what I use, and I'm using my numbers today based on interest only. My theory behind that is that I'm going to have to put down about, $2 million into this property. So that is my down payment, and that's what I'm using to calculate my return, or that's what I'm expecting my return on, is that $2 million investment. So I don't want to pay down principal. Southern California has great appreciation. So I want to utilize that extra cash flow either to put back into the property or to go reinvest somewhere else. My money is always working for me, and it's not really doing much for me paying down principal. So for me, I'm going to get interest-only financing. So based on this cash flow, of course, using the 5% vacancy instead of 3%, I'm coming up with a loan amount of roughly $3.7 million, $3,705,000. That's a 1.24 DCR. Most lenders are at a 1.2, so there's a little bit of padding in there in case maybe there's some expenses that we didn't anticipate. That's a 65% loan to value, so 35% down. And I'm using a rate of 4.5%. Now you can maybe get a little bit of a lower rate, but I would only get 3 years of interest only for the lower rate, whereas I can pay a little bit higher rate of 4.5%, and that's giving me 5 years of interest only. So I'm going to take that loan because for me, when I ran the numbers of, a rate of 4.3 versus for 3 years interest only versus a rate of 4.5, when I calculate my prepayment penalty, it's kind of a wash. So I'm not really saving any money to, potentially go on that 3-year interest only and then just refi into another interest only loan. So I'm saying I'm going to do the 5 years at a little bit of a higher rate, take that cash flow, not have to worry about refinancing in a few years. So the interest only payment here is $13,894 per month. So if I deduct my debt service, which is 12 months of these payments, that's $166,725. I come to a pre-tax cash flow of $112,348. So that's basically a cap rate on the purchase is 4.9%, which is pretty good in San Diego. Most properties are not cash flowing to at a 4.9 cap. Like properties are not selling for that price here. So anyways, this is a really good deal in my opinion. And let me see the actual return on investment too, because that is an important number. So I'm going to take my down payment of $1,995,000, so 112. That's what I'm looking at is a 5.69% return on my investment, which is really good. Let's now take a look at the market approach because my rents are really not that low. They're pretty close to market, but $50 across the board or $100 is a huge difference on 30 units. So if I were to go with the market rents, now looking at all, the same deal with current, just using all my market numbers, that's the 524,940, 12 times the 43,745, the other income, 3% vacancy, I'm coming up with 515,672 on market. Deducting those expenses, I come up to an NOI of 327,903. And then I deduct my debt service of 166,725. So here, I'll put parentheses because you're supposed to deduct that. That comes to 161,178. That's a 5.75% cap rate, and that's about an 8% return on my investment of $1,995,000. So it's 8.14%. Not bad. I don't think there's many deals you're going to find in Southern California that are going to give you an 8% return on your money. And if they're going to give you that return, they're certainly not at the beach. So this is my workforce housing example, and this is why I'm investing in more of these types of properties for cash flow. So now we're going to take a look at a coastal property, which gives you an idea. I mean, again, that's the property that you're proud to show your friends. Look at this property I own. Come take a look at my building. Or you take your family to go see it. You feel really proud when you show them that, but then you probably don't feel so proud to show them the cash flow that you're getting on the property. So now we're going to take a look at this coastal property. This is a property that's for sale today as well. So it's a good side-by-side comparison just to show you the difference between coastal and workforce housing. So this is a coastal property. There is a 12-unit building for sale very close to the beach. Not on the beach. On the beach would be even more expensive, but this is west of the 5 here in Southern California. So $3.9 million purchase price for 12 units comes out to $325,000 per unit. It's like 1.5 times what I was purchasing this property over here, and it's 12 units versus 29. So this property on the face of it has a really good unit mix. It's a beautiful property. It's been renovated inside and out. So when you go there, you're impressed. It looks beautiful. And again, the unit mix is really good. So there are essentially 2 3-bedroom, 1.5 baths plus a garage. And then there are 7, 8, 9 2-bedrooms. So 8 of them are 2-bedroom, 1.5 bath. One of those is a townhouse, both with garages, and then there is 1 2-bedroom, 2-bath plus a garage. So here are the current rents. Current rents are, $1,600 for the 2s, $1,900 for the 3s. Oh, there's the 1-bedroom, 1-bath. That's $1,400. The townhouse is $1,650. The 2 2s $1,650, and then you've got an extra garage here too. So market here would be 1850, 2250, 1595, 1950. And then of course we have this $100, which I forgot to put. Okay, so that's $100. So, oh, no, that's $100 for the $100 for laundry. So your current income is $19,900 per month. Your market is $23,145. So there's some decent upside there, like $3,000 a month. So here you go. Property taxes, again, the property tax rate in this particular area in San Diego is a little bit lower, 1.11%. So that's $43,385. That's the purchase price times the tax rate. Assessments of $176. Insurance is $3,500 estimated. This is coming straight from the marketing package, so of course we would have to verify all expenses. Water, sewer, trash, $13,800. Gas and electric, $2,400. Management fee is estimated at 6%. Over here it was estimated at 5%. This is a smaller property, so a lot of times you don't have to have an on-site manager here. So for your off-site manager, they're going to have to, drive to the property and take care of it a little bit more than if they had somebody on-site to help out. So that's why the little bit higher management fee. Maintenance is estimated at $1,000 a unit. I would imagine part of that is because this is a coastal property. So when you are dealing with salt water, you've got to take care of the exterior of the property. It's a little bit higher maintenance. So that's another, I would say, drawback to owning at the beach. The positive about owning at the beach is, appreciation, that you're probably never going to lose your value. The downside is it's more expensive to buy, more expensive to maintain. So then we threw in miscellaneous of $250. So the total is $93,000 for expenses, and then market, we just kind of, since there's a little bit more upside here, we calculated the management fee for market. So it would be, the market expense would be $95,476. Another thing you really do want to look at that I should mention is when you're looking at your expenses for a property should not be any less than 40%. And it's going to be higher, obviously, if you're looking at a property that has, significant upside where rents are really low. But I would say if rents are kind of generally within the range, expenses should never be less than 40%. Because when you see rents that are less than 40% of your gross income, you're either looking at someone who's not telling you the truth about actual expenses, or someone who's not maintaining their property, or maybe somebody's just not educated and they don't really know how to underwrite deals. But there is no way that anybody's going to run properties for less than 40% of the income. It's just not going to happen. So I would be very suspect if I saw something that was lower than that, and if so, I would have to pad it and increase those expenses to make me feel comfortable that I could actually operate the property within these expenses. So anyways, now we're going to take a look at the operating data for this property. So current is, the income times 12. So that's $236,400, and other income of $2,400. That's the garage and the laundry income. Now I'm going to hit it with a 3% vacancy. So my gross operating income is $231,636 on current, minus the expenses of $93,210 here. I come up with a NOI of $138,426. So your debt service. So we're looking at our loan. Your debt service is your mortgage payments. So your annual mortgage payments. So here again, I'm going to use interest only as a guide, and I kind of estimated, just to compare apples to apples, to our workforce housing deal of a down payment of $1,995,000. I don't even think this property would support that down payment. They'd have to put a little bit more cash down because it's not cash flowing. So the loan amount is $1,905,000. So your DCR is 1.08. I need a 1.2 debt coverage ratio. That's what any lender is going to require. Maybe you might be able to find a lender that will go down to 1.15, but most people are at 1.2, and that's what I would use to be safe. LTV is, I think the LTV is 51% here. Hang on, let me write that. I'm a lefty, so I write funny. Anyways, LTV is 51%, and the interest rate I'm estimating is 4.5. Again, they could get a lower rate, but for 5 years of IO, that is the rate. And I'm going to do apples to apples here. So the IO payment would be $7,481 a month, or $89,775 a year. Your pre-tax cash flow is $48,651. Your cap rate is 3.5% on purchase. You can't even borrow money at 3.5%. It's costing you maybe 4.25% at best, or maybe 4.05 maybe today is what you could get. So anyways, that is a 2.43% return on your investment of $1,995,000. 2%. So now let's take a look at market. It's a little bit better, but not much. Your market is your gross scheduled income here, and we're going to hit it with a 3% vacancy. You get a gross operating income of $269,407, less your expenses, a little bit higher to account for the management fee on that increased rent is $95,476. You get a cash flow of $173,932. And then you hit it with your debt service of $89,775. You come to a pre-tax cash flow of $84,157, which is a 4.21% return on your investment. So this, I think, is a pretty clear indication of why I wouldn't recommend investing in coastal properties. They just don't make sense. The numbers don't make sense. When would you buy coastal properties? When you have so much money that you probably need write-offs versus actual income. Now you have pride of ownership properties. This is going to be like a piggy bank. It is going to appreciate faster than that workforce housing. So that is one reason that you might invest in a coastal property. But I even have a lot of owners who have owned coastal, and they say because of the maintenance that they have to deal with the saltwater, that they want to get out of these properties. So again, if you just have so much cash flow and you're looking for legacy of what you're going to pass down to your kids, and you want them to be set up with easy properties to operate, that have good tenants, and they don't really have to worry too much about being super hands-on with management or dealing with too many headaches, then you can go with coastal. We have clients that are maybe attorneys or doctors. Again, they're making a ton of income and they're paying a hefty tax. So they're buying real estate as a way to reduce their tax, the taxes that they're paying every year. They're buying coastal properties, some of them. So that might be a reason that you would consider a property like this. But if you're looking for cash flow and you're looking to get a return, if you're a syndicator and you need to get investors a return on their money, you need to go towards properties that actually cash flow. So I can take a quick peek with you here just to compare the two. Same investment of $1,995,000 here. You're buying 29 units versus 12 units. Your NOI on this workforce housing is $279,000 versus $138,000. And then let's just say we're maximizing these properties. Your NOI max here is $327,000, almost $328,000 conservatively. I could probably get that number up a bit. So versus $174,000 almost here on this property. So for the same exact investment, this is the difference in your returns. I'm getting twice the amount of return here. If I'm looking at my return on investment, I'm at 8.14% on market with this workforce housing deal versus 4.21% on this coastal property. So the numbers don't lie. This is what I tell clients when they're looking at deals. Like, you really just need to run the numbers and see which deals make sense. Now, if we're getting into due diligence and inspections and all of that stuff, I mean, let's talk about this workforce housing. I'm probably going to deal with a few more evictions at this property just because of the location. Maybe the tenants are going to be a little bit harder on the units. Let's say, those are going to be the kinds of things that I'm maybe going to deal with more than this coastal property. I will tell you, though, the amount that you're going to pay for being by the beach for exterior maintenance versus what I'm going to pay here not being by the beach, it's probably going to balance itself out. So at the end of the day, I'm probably paying a little more for evictions and attorney costs for this property. When you're looking at these properties, you really just want to take a look through all of the units and see what kind of renovations you might have to do. In this particular case, there's maybe 2 or 3 units because we've got some longtime tenants living there that I'm going to have to maybe renovate the units. For me, because we have a good team of people that renovate our units and I know what it costs me, I'm going to probably forecast in or budget in about, $15,000 to $17,000 if I need to renovate a unit here. It would be different than what I would do at a coastal property, obviously, too. So coastal, I'd probably estimate like $22,000, $23,000 for a renovation, whereas here I'd maybe spend $15,000 to $17,000 because I'm going to use a little bit. I'm going to use materials that match the location. So those are the kinds of things you're going to want to look at in your walkthrough and say, hey, what kind of things do I need to spend money on when I close on this property? And that's something that you can come back and ask for credit for once you're done doing your due diligence, which is what we did. We got a credit because we said, we need to redo the asphalt here. And there's this huge tree that's in the way. Can you cut that down? And then also there was no GFCIs in the bathroom. It was really odd. They didn't have any plugs in the bathroom. So we negotiated that they were going to give us a credit to do all these things. So now I basically have a property that's pretty turnkey, just like this property would be as well. And I'm going to make an 8% return once I get the rents up to market versus making a 4.2% return on a coastal property. So there you have it. This is how I look at buying properties, and this is how I make my decisions on our investment strategies and where we're heading with our purchases. Thanks so much.